A challenge to diagnosing most mental health conditions, compared with medical conditions, is that of having objective and quantifiable parameters to assess the levels of severity of these mental health conditions. For example, an increased or elevated blood pressure can be observed through the use of a blood pressure monitoring device, and the effect of an intervention with medications to lower blood pressure can also be assessed. For the diagnosis of many mental health conditions, mental health specialists refer to a set of guidelines as defined by an updated and revised manual, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Though currently, with the advances in science and technology, certain mental health conditions can be proven through demonstrable structural, physiological, and chemical changes observed within the brain and other neural structures of the body. Nevertheless, it could be argued that the reliability of treatments and other interventions aimed at correcting certain diagnosed mental illnesses, which have been demonstrated by such technology, can be put to question, as there is the lack of an objective or quantifiable assessment tool which demonstrates a reversal of mental illness. With the advent of social media platforms in the late 90s, which have eased communication and increased accessibility to various interactions across all barriers, there has been observed a rise in levels of anxiety and depression among various age demographic. However, the most affected demographic are the teenagers. To what degree these changes have impacted teenage anxiety and depression rates might remain a challenge, given the lack of measurable objective parameters. However, that which can be assessed over a certain time frame can be quantified, that is, the number of cases of adolescent depression and anxiety diagnosis. Over years, through media platforms such as QQ, Facebook, Instagram, including this platform, YouTube, teens share their experiences and observe the lifestyle of not only those around them, but complete strangers of different cultures and lifestyle. Over time, these teens get accustomed to trends, lifestyle, and develop a common culture, the social media culture, defined by its widespread acceptance or popularity and its general appeal to its audience. The problem with this trend is the subjects most affected, the teenagers. Unlike adults, most teenagers are still in the stage of mental development and a formation of a strong perception of true identity. They are still at the stage of discovery, but are at the same time easily prone to peer pressure. But the peer in this situation isn't the classmate or buddies they hang out with. It's the group of other social media users and the influencers. A result of this trend is the emergence of anxiety and depression, especially among teens, when you don't feel they meet up with the expectations to keep up with certain lifestyle they observe through these media platforms. Various researchers suggest teens are more likely to have depressed mood if they spend a lot of time and effort on their social media accounts. Over the years, there has been a demonstrable rise in cases of anxiety and depression among adolescents, and studies from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention suggests among children between ages 6 and 17, rise in either cases of anxiety or depression from 5.4% in 2003 to 8% in 2007, and a further increase to 8.4% observed between 2011 and 2012. These impacts are not restricted to the Western world. Even regions and communities that were known to hold on to certain traditional views or culture are now adopting the media culture, as the world through social media has indeed attained the status of a global village. In dealing with the problems of the emerging mental health crisis, again, The issue of identifying objective parameters creates a major cause for concern, especially when it comes to averting complications of these problems. A teenager might exhibit certain features of depression. However, some might be able to mask identifiable symptoms by trying not to be out of character of their usual selves in the presence of others. They might fake smiles and do things considered to be socially acceptable as being happy. And there have been many cases of attempted suicide, and worse, even suicide. And with regards to anxiety, oftentimes, certain people don't know they are functioning in a state of clinical anxiety. They are constantly tense and fearful, but they might attribute it to some other experiences. Among teenagers, here are some common cues to the possible existence of depression. There are increased irritability and sometimes defiance. There's problems with staying focused or concentrating with schoolwork. There's also increased sensitivity to criticism. They experience social isolation, falling grades at school, and changes in energy. Could be physical performance, or in your speech, or your thought process. Now, these might be slightly different in adults. In general, the diagnosis of clinical depression should be made by a mental health specialist who has undergone the necessary training, but here are some indicators of a major depressive episode. There are the experiences of depressed mood, decreased pleasure or interest in activities that were previously pleasurable. There are experiences of changes in appetite and weight, especially if not intentional. There are sleep changes, either the lack of sleep or excessive sleep. There's decreased physical activity without any form of disability. There's decreased or absent energy. There's a felt sense of worthlessness or unusual guilt feeling. Decreased ability to concentrate. And there's the thought of suicide. Note, some of these features might be due to a natural process following bereavement or even a medical condition, such as terminal illness. Whatever the case, it is always advisable to seek the help of a mental health professional. For anxiety, broadly speaking, the concept denotes worry or fear of something anticipatory. This might manifest with a verbal expression of worry, avoidance behavior, and physiological manifestations such as increased heartbeats, the feeling or experience of muscle cramping. Where and when possible, identifying certain trigger factors that are also avoidable can go a long way. It might be helpful to limit exposure to such triggers that could be physical or emotional. Caretakers to preteens and teenagers can be proactive, encouraging children to cultivate certain habits, especially at a younger age. And these habits could include reading books, volunteering within communities, developing interest for hobbies such as arts and crafts, outdoor activities, role modeling, showing admiration for achievements of children. This could help to build a healthy dose of self-esteem. Recognizing emerging challenges as children develop to teenagers and walking them through these challenges can be very beneficial. Teens should be encouraged to speak out their thoughts and opinions without receiving harsh criticism or judgments. Mental health conditions affect every demographic, and whenever we have the opportunity to show support, let's not relent. If you reside in the US and you or someone you know is struggling with issues surrounding mental health, please take action by calling 988. Remember, you are not alone.